Then to Linda.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Vera, and very happy to be here with all of you. I see actually many faces I don't know, so it's really nice to be here and have an exchange with all of you. So my name is Linda, and I am an advisor to the Civil Liberties Union for Europe, which is a network of human rights NGOs from across the EU. We have members and partners in 18 member states of the European Union, plus the UK, and we try and continue to expand a bit the network. And Vera invited me to shortly talk about rule of law and civic space, meaning so how I interpreted this question is basically giving you a short input revolving around 3 points. The first one is why are we talking about this? So how efforts of the EU to protect rule of law are relevant to civil society organizations and to protect civic space. And also what is the contribution that civil society organizations are making and can make to this process. And then a word, I will say, on how the European Union should better support civil society engagement in this. Which is something that indeed you will then discuss also, we will then discuss also later today. So the relevance of the efforts of the EU to civil society and civic space. I mean, we all know that there are many attempts across the EU to hinder the work of civil society organizations, especially those that sort of engage in a watchdogging role, in advocacy, in litigation, that are sort of vocal about what's wrong in their countries. And we see governments adopting burdensome regulations, disproportionate rules on dissolution. There are attacks on defenders, on civil society organizations, even by governments, or in other cases, governments simply don't do anything to prevent and address these attacks. They refuse to engage with civil society. They hinder the access to funding. So all of these attempts to hinder the work of civil society are signs of a deteriorating rule of law environment. And so everything that the EU does to address rule of law challenges has a relevance for civil society as well. So we see that in some countries, these attacks to civil society are part of a broader systematic strategy to dismantle progressively checks and balances, like unfortunately we do see in the country we are today, so in Hungary, but also in other countries like Poland. But there are also less extreme situations in other countries where these attempts to attack civil society are simply tools that governments use to try and secure support for their governments, to try and keep hold of their power. Through scapegoating, as we see in France, through polarization, as we see in Slovenia, reducing accountability of the authorities, as we see in Greece. I know that we have a diverse audience here, so I'm sure you can actually testimony on all this. So the launch by the European Commission of this annual audit that we call the Rule of Law report, the Rule of Law review cycle, was a very welcome step. So it was launched in 2019, and it was seen by civil society organizations at EU level, so that had engaged indeed and prompted the Commission to do more to address rule of law challenges, including the shrinking civic space, as a groundbreaking step that could be a game changer. Civic space is included in the scope of this audit by the European Commission. Although, as I will say in a moment, we do have some reservations on how they actually approach the issue and report on the issue. But I mean, overall, as I said, we saw it as a good move, and the fact that now, from now on, so from this year on, as some of you may know, the report will also come with recommendations. So the Commission will not only include a description of the situation in all the countries, in each and every European country, but also recommendations attached to such description, is a very important win, actually, in terms of advocacy, because it's something that we have, all of us, advocated for a long time, to make sure that this instrument has some teeth and not only is a barking dog, but also is a very good sign from the Commission that they are taking this up. But it's of course important that this annual audit is done in an inclusive manner and is used at its full potential, also in complementarity with other tools that the Commission and the EU in general has, which include enforcement tools, as many of you will know, including what we call infringement proceedings, so legal actions against member states, but also more political sort of discussions on possible sanctions that happen at the level of EU governments. And so we saw this, as I said, as a good step forward, and civil society has invested a lot into actively contributing to this process. This includes Liberties itself, who has been coordinating a rule of law report among its members for 3 years now, but also many other organizations, including Civil Society Europe, European Civic Forum, and many, many others who have tried and mobilized their members, or in any case, associations at national level to contribute to this process and feed the Commission with information. And what is this input civil society is providing? So first of all, civil society organizations have a key role in gathering evidence-based information that can feed the Commission assessments, so that can, inform the way that the Commission reports about challenges existing at national level in each country, but also hopefully inform the recommendations that it includes in its report. And the second important role that civil society has, or could potentially have, is helping to increase impact of this annual audit on the ground. Because civil society engage in follow-up advocacy, in some countries at least, they do have functioning channels to talk to governments. They can advise on certain reforms. They can provide expertise. They can, of course, handle complaints of citizens and engage in litigation. And they indeed organize public education, awareness raising events, and mobilize people around rule of law challenges and how to address them, how important democracy is, etc., also in an understandable language that people can grasp and resonate with them. And also, of course, they help to improve the Commission's audit process itself. So one big part of the work we have been doing at EU level as umbrella organizations around this process is advocating before the Commission to make this process more transparent, more effective, especially and also in terms of follow-up. So once the report is published, okay, what do you do with it? Like, it's important that there are discussions at national level, that this is used, that this is actually useful to bring some change on the ground. Otherwise, it's just, a piece of paper that you put in a drawer and that's it. And every year we read it, but okay, there is no real follow-up. So we have engaged in all this, as I said, to try and support these different roles that civil society can have, monitoring and feeding the Commission reporting, trying to do some follow-up at national level and try to advocate to improve the process. But we also see that clearly this engagement of civil society has to be better supported, has to be better valued, both at European and at national level. And this especially against all the challenges that civil society organizations already face at national level. Because, of course, if you do not have an enabling environment to carry out your work, all these things that I said, so your ability to monitor, to report, your ability to follow up, to do advocacy at national level, I mean, you can't do it. And so the process itself loses a bit its meaning. So just a word to finish off and also maybe feed a bit your discussions, our discussions later today on what to do about it. Our starting point has been that civil society in this process hasn't to be seen only as an information provider. This has been the approach of the Commission so far. We do this report, you feed us with information, we get it, thank you, and then we process it internally. We write our report internally, and we publish it, and you do what you want with it. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really how we see the process should be handled and look like. It's true that, I mean, of course, civil society has a responsibility to contribute to this, and we are really trying to support them as umbrella organizations, but we also see a certain fatigue among our members, because if they see no impact, it's difficult for organizations to continue to engage. So there are two main things we have all advocated for jointly with joint statements, but also individually, to feed the Commission and the EU in general with ideas on how to support civil society engagement in this process. So first of all, ideas to improve the rule of law audit itself, improve the consultation process to better enable civil society to contribute, and also involve them in the preparation stage, not only in the drafting of the report by allowing them to input information through this annual public consultation, but also consulting them to identify recommendations, design the questionnaires, and so on. And also advocating for the Commission to expand the audit on civic space and try to make, you know, the analysis more contextualized, deeper, building on international standards and so on, and engage in regular dialogue and follow-up. But also more broadly, we think that this presupposes efforts to really create an enabling environment, as I said, at national level. And this is indeed the reason why we're here today, and this idea of a civil society strategy that should enable civil society to engage in this process and all the other processes that are relevant to them and to human rights protection in general. So really looking forward to your ideas on how to make this happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda.